Honda might be coming to NASCAR, Dale Earnhardt Jr. might already have a new TV contract, and is Austin Dillon retiring after the 2024 season, and who drives the historic number 3 car if he is?
High, push it, checker flag, hell yeah!
What's the caution for? Me?
Can they not push it in?
Stop anybody.
Come on, he's going! Way to go, boys! One hell of a job, man, one hell of a job. Thank you so much.
It is a leap day edition of Shifting Gears here on a February 29th, 2024. Welcome on into the program. I'm Alan Bailey. Lots of stuff to cover today, lots of breaking news, so we're just going to get right on into it. But before we do, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you do not miss an episode. And you can also check out arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news in between videos. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. Going to go ahead and start with a piece of news that's actually a couple of days old at this point, but I wanted to kind of give my 2 cents on it and keep you up to date on this one. Stuart Hos Racing slammed with some pretty hefty penalties for the illegal roof rails on the 41 and the 10 car. Now, both of them, the 41 has no points and the 10 car is -6 points. So you actually have more points than Noah Gragson does in the NASCAR Cup Series. You and I, who have not raced in the NASCAR Cup Series yet. But hey, at least Stuart Hos Racing is unapologetically rebels. Yeah! Well, you know, at some point, something's got to happen over at Stuart Hos Racing, because over the course of the last 18 months, they've racked up 5 massive penalties. Let's break them down real quick. Talladega 2022, window fasteners on the 4 car, massive fine. The Charlotte Roval in 2022, race manipulation by the 41 spinning going into the backstretch chicane. You had Charlotte in 23 for counterfeit parts on the 41 car. Michigan 23, illegal splitter on the 00 in the Xfinity Series. And now Atlanta in 24, illegal roof rails on the 41 and the 10 car. So if this trend continues, we're going to see at least one more massive penalty out of Stuart Hos Racing, either in the Xfinity Series or the Cup Series sometime this season. It's early on. I'm sure they're going to do it again because, you know, Stuart Hos Racing is desperate to find some speed. There's no real leadership over there. Gene Haas really has never been competitive in NASCAR unless Tony Stewart was attached, and now that Tony Stewart has effectively shifted his focus over to drag racing, that race team is doing exactly what it did under Gene Haas's kind of watch, and that's failing miserably, running mid-pack, and struggling all around. I'd like to see him turn it around, but at this point, probably not going to happen. They're probably going to lose a charter. It's looking pretty not great for Stuart Hos Racing. Maybe they'll race with Honda. Oh, by the way, Honda is possibly coming to NASCAR. Take this report with a massive grain of salt. But over on the Marshall Pruitt podcast, who is a motorsports insider who is very reputable, very professional, and we should actually pay attention to this, we found out that Honda may or may not be coming to NASCAR in the near future. Now, one report is not going to get me all excited. There are some people saying, oh, I have a good feeling about this. This is going to happen. And there are some who are like, this is fact. It's happening. It's here. Get ready. Honda is coming to NASCAR. Listen, until we see literally a rendering or see a car on track or NASCAR or Honda makes the announcement, it's not real, period. I don't believe it's real because this rumor has been around for 15 years. Literally, we've seen multiple renderings by fans and motorsports artists who have done this. Honda has been talking to NASCAR on and off for the better part of 15 years. Until we see a car on track in Daytona, I'm not going to believe it because remember, Dodge brought out, ooh, look at this. It's our brand new CRT car. This is how great it is. And then they had nobody to race the damn thing and they just went away. So I don't believe it. I really don't. Until a team actually makes that announcement. And maybe we'll see the likes of Penske and or Stuart Hos Racing make that announcement sometime this year, later in the year. And maybe we won't. But keep in mind, the deadline to submit a new car body for the NASCAR Cup Series is September 1st. But that deadline is not for the next race year, it's for 2 years from now. So best case scenario, Honda has already submitted those plans, and we will see that car on track maybe in 2025, maybe 2026, but that puts whatever race team announces that they're going with Honda in a lame duck year for 2025. And that didn't work out great for Legacy Motor Club last year with Chevrolet, with them moving over to Toyota this year. So again, this is a wait and see, wait until we actually see a car on track, wait until we actually get this announcement from Honda or NASCAR. But NASCAR has been quasi-talking to multiple manufacturers for the better part of 15 years, and at this point, talk is cheap. Let's actually see a car on track. One of the big breaking news stories that kind of started a few weeks ago and has snowballed out of control. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to be leaving NBC Sports. He's already left them, actually. He's not going to be doing play-by-play this year in 2024 for them. And next year in 2025, when the new TV contract kicks in, Dale Earnhardt Jr. will be in the booth for Amazon Prime for 5 races mid-season and another 5 races for TNT and the streaming service Max in the Cup Series. At least that's what The Athletic is reporting this week, and I tend to believe everything The Athletic reports because they've gotten them right more often than not. And this is a massive deal. Dale Earnhardt Jr. said on his podcast a few weeks ago that he did not have a deal with NBC for the 2024 season, and that he was working on some things. Then this week on his podcast, he came out and bluntly said one of the stipulations for him doing play-by-play is actually physically being at the racetrack and not being in a booth like we see with the Truck Series and like we presumably will see with the Xfinity Series and apparently with the NBC booth sometime down the road. That's what they're moving towards. NASCAR built a new production studio in Charlotte, North Carolina, in order to literally put the broadcasters and the producers in one location in North Carolina without having to travel to the racetrack to broadcast these races. Now, this topic is massive. I have so much to say about it, and that's why I'm going to be putting out a special Shifting Gears this Saturday morning just to rant about all of this, because having worked in the radio broadcast industry, specifically working for a sports broadcast station for the better part of 10 years that broadcasted over 250 games per year, I have many thoughts from a professional standpoint on how to do this. I've also called races at racetracks for 5 years plus, so I know what I'm talking about in this realm, and I'm going to rant about this. But let's talk about what this means for Dale Earnhardt Jr. and more specifically for Amazon Prime and TNT. This essentially instantly gives so much credibility to Amazon Prime and the TNT Max broadcasts because Dale Earnhardt Jr. is, for lack of a better term, and this is going to offend people, NASCAR Jesus. I don't mean that he is our savior and that we should be worshiping him. Please do not take it that way. I instead mean that he is the son of a very important individual in the NASCAR community, and thank goodness that Dale Earnhardt Jr. is using his clout, his knowledge, his Hall of Fame status for good in the NASCAR area, because he very much could swing the other way and be the villain of NASCAR if he chose. And I like that Dale Earnhardt Jr. is actually out there opening up to fans, talking about how to make broadcasts better, how to make the sport better, working with iRacing, working with NASCAR to bring about positive change for the NASCAR community and the sport. And I got to give him credit here. He's 100% right on this. I wish him all the best over at Amazon and TNT. What does NBC do? Nothing. They already have Jeff Burton and Steve Letarte in the booth with Rick Allen. They're 100% fine. Dale Earnhardt Jr. will not be in the booth this year. And that sucks. It really does. It's going to take away from those broadcasts, but I do think that Steve Letarte and Jeff Burton with Rick Allen will be able to step up and actually produce significantly better races than we see out of the Fox broadcast right now. I have so much more to say on how to broadcast NASCAR races and what changes need to be made over at the Fox broadcasts coming up this Saturday, so mash that subscribe button so that you do not miss this video, because it's going to be very enlightening, very interesting, and I'm going to rant, and I'm going to be passionate, and you can't stop me. Now, our final story for today's episode. There are rumors that have been circulating for a few weeks now, a few months, and half of them I think are true and half of them aren't, but the latest rumor has Austin Dillon retiring after the 2024 race season and him moving into a leadership role over at RCR, opening up the door for another driver to take over the historic number 3 car in the NASCAR Cup Series for Earnhardt Jr. Racing. So much to unpack with this one. Honestly, you look at Austin Dillon's career. Yes, he has several victories in the NASCAR Cup Series, including a victory in the Daytona 500. He is, I think, a good driver. However, It is no secret that they have struggled for the last few years over at that 3 camp, and it was very evident last year when you had Kyle Busch coming on in the 8 car for the first time, winning multiple races, and you had the 3 car with multiple DNFs, not winning races, not contending, not making the postseason. This is bad. Now, a good chunk of it is just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, being involved in other people's accidents that led to his 10 DNFs last year, but his 2024 season is not off to a great start either. Now, is it driver? Is it team? Is it organization? Little of all three, I think. It's absolutely no secret that RCR has never really been a championship contender since the death of Dale Earnhardt Sr. in 2001. Yes, they've had sparks of brilliance when Kevin Harvick raced for the team, but they never really went all the way, and they never really seriously contended for a championship, and that's continuing even with Kyle Busch driving one of their cars. I'd like to see RCR succeed, but overall, I do think that they do need a better driver than Austin Dillon in the number 3 car. But who is that? Sincerely, who is a better driver than Austin Dillon that can take over that car right now and actually have more success in it than Austin Dillon? Maybe Austin Hill, he is in the pipeline. He's a guy that definitely wants to move up to Cup, and RCR wants to be that team that he wants to be with. But you also have Jesse Love right there in the wings as well, who I think is the next generational talent in NASCAR that we all need to be paying attention to. Does that mean that either one of these drivers can take over the 3 car in 2025 and be successful? Doubtful. Honestly doubtful. This rumor has kind of been circulating for the last few weeks, and I had to address it because really, what do you do? If it were me, I would put literally anybody else in that car besides Austin Dillon. No offense to Austin Dillon. I think that Austin Dillon, like Ben Kennedy, is a better business person for RCR than a driver. It was Austin Dillon who suggested to sign Kyle Busch to his grandfather, and Austin Dillon who really brokered that deal and really got the deal done. And I would argue Kyle Busch signing with RCR to drive the number 8 car last season is probably one of the better moves that RCR has done in the last 15 years, give or take. I think that whenever Austin Dillon gets out of the car and steps into the business role, similar to what we saw with Jeff Gordon over at Hendrick Motorsports, Austin Dillon will do wonderful things for RCR, securing that company's future for decades to come. The question is, when does he actually get out of the car, and when does he take over that role? I think he's still a bit too young. I think he has maybe another 3 to 5 years in the car at least, if not more. But again, this is his choice. And I think that if NASCAR's charter system continues to be as structured as it is currently, then RCR is not really looking to expand to a 3rd car. Yes, they're running a 3rd car with the number 33 for a handful of races in 2024, specifically the road courses. But for now, they're not going to a full-time 3rd car, and because of that, you have talent like Austin Hill, like Jesse Love, waiting in the wings that needs somewhere to go. Austin Dillon stepping out of the car now makes sense, but I don't think he's ready for it, and I don't necessarily believe the rumor that he's retiring at the end of the 2024 season. But let's go ahead and play hypothetical here for a second. Hypothetically, if I'm Austin Dillon and I am choosing to retire after the 2024 season from driving, and that ride is open, what does the driver lineup look like for the 2025 season at RCR? Without question, the first thing I do, move Kyle Busch to the number 3 car, period. When Kyle Busch came into the Cup Series in 2005, immediately I had massive Intimidator vibes off of him because he had that kind of talent driving the car. He had that I don't care, I'm going to do what I want attitude, and fans either loved him or hated him. Tell me that doesn't describe Dale Earnhardt Sr. And I'm not going to sit here and say Kyle Busch is as good or better than the Intimidator. I don't think that that's fair to Kyle Busch or to the Intimidator. I think that both are phenomenal drivers that unfortunately never got to race against each other, so we will never find out which is better than the other, and that's up to fans and experts to debate for decades to come. But I do think that anybody who takes over that number 3 has to embody that attitude and that skill set, and frankly, no one else besides Kyle Busch can take over that number 3 car at RCR. But what about the 2nd car over at RCR if I'm Austin Dillon? Do I promote Austin Hill or Jesse Love? This is an extremely hard decision because I think that both are correct answers. If I'm thinking short term, I'm definitely thinking Austin Hill. If I'm thinking long term, Jesse Love. But again, Love is very, 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 very young into his NASCAR Xfinity Series career, and at this point, I think he needs a little bit more seat time and a little bit more experience. Nothing against him, it's just that he's young. He needs that experience. Austin Hill definitely has that, but honestly, I'm getting Daniel Hemrick vibes off of Austin Hill. Yes, great in the Xfinity Series, but once you get to the Cup Series, it's a much different animal. And will Austin Hill and Kyle Busch gel as teammates? Time will tell. I want to hear what you have to say about this. Should Austin Dillon retire from driving? And if he does, when he does, who takes over the number 3 car or the second car over at RCR? Let me know in the comments down below. And we're going to go ahead and open up the comments, your comments, for a little hot takes. This wasn't planned at all, but this one is going to lead us off. My thought on RCR as an old fan: move Austin Dillon to vice president of operations or some other way he can learn to take over from Pop, then move Jesse Love up as fast as RCR can. That guy reminds me of Jeff Gordon when he came up. Listen, Mr. UCL, I agree. I 100% agree with you. I'm getting massive Jeff Gordon vibes, but at the same time, Casey Atwood vibes off of him. So that could go literally one way or another. Also a Joey Logano vibes off of Jesse Love as well. And again, this guy just needs time to develop. Don't rush him up to Cup. Let him develop in Xfinity for maybe another year or two before you think about moving him up to Cup. But I agree with you. Austin Dillon needs to take over as vice president and needs to move into that managerial role similar to what Jeff Gordon did after he got out of the car. We asked the question a few weeks ago, who's the best Ford driver in the Cup Series right now? And this one says, my heart says Noah Gragson because I'm a Noah Gragson guy. But I think Blaney and Todd are going to have great seasons for the Blue Ovals. Interesting. I as far as raw driving talent, I do think that Noah Gragson is up there on that list. He's definitely top 3 in the Ford camp right now. I think that driver talent and team combo, Blaney's your guy, but I do think that Todd Gilliland frankly deserves another look. He's a guy who did a lot with a little last year, and he really impressed at Atlanta this weekend. We know that everybody at Front Row Motorsports went from being a Tier 3 team over at Ford to a Tier 1, and according to Michael McDowell, those Tier 1 benefits haven't really kicked in yet. When they do, watch out for Front Row. I think that Todd Gilliland and Michael McDowell are both going to be threats to make the postseason on points alone. They'll probably get close with a win at a road course or a plate track somewhere this season, but honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if they went out to Vegas this weekend and just led a bunch of laps. But as always, you can go ahead and leave your hot takes in the comments down below. We read them on every episode. Look out for that rant about how Fox can fix their broadcasts and about the state of broadcasting right now in NASCAR coming out this Saturday. So mash that subscribe button so that you do not miss that video. And make sure that you check out our brand new, still yet to be named Xfinity Series show. It's going to be coming out every Tuesday here on the channel as well. I'm really excited about this show. The last show really blew up. Apparently me wearing a Deadpool onesie is very important to people. I don't know why. And final word here. I know that something called IcyVert kind of blew up the NASCAR Twitter internet this weekend because, new guy coming, a social media influencer coming into NASCAR for a single race and then going away. Guys, why does that matter? If somebody who has a bleak interest in NASCAR or this sport as a whole wants to learn more about it and come out to a race, come on out. NASCAR's for everyone. Don't gatekeep this sport. Share it with people, period. And yeah, if this person comes out to a single race and never comes back, that's okay. Glad to have you. We'll show you a good time. Come on in. Open invitation to him for coming onto this show and talking about anything NASCAR, talking about what he has going on. Sincerely, you want to come on the program, I'll welcome you with open arms to talk NASCAR any day of the week. You just go ahead, shoot me a DM and let me know. So, for Shifting Gears, I'm Alan Bailey. We'll see you at the track.